I'm going to do next are the next 4 design principles. So the next one is hierarchy. We want to create a clear sense of visual order. At this point, it all kind of works as one cohesive element. It's no real thing that's standing out. So what I want to do is I want to change the order a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my text up here. I'm then going to select all these other elements, minusing my text and my border, and drag them a little bit below. So what I really want to do is I want to create a clearer sense of hierarchy. So I'm going to minimize actually the size of this splatter. So I'm going to drag it like so. And what I'm then going to do is I'm going to extend this splatter to make it look like it's kind of sliding down the wall. So I'm going to use my pen tool to draw this shape and try and create this effect. And it may not be 100% perfect, but it's something new. It's something different, and it's exploring that design principle really clearly. And again, guys, the cool thing about this video, if you don't want to watch me make this, you can always fast forward. Cool. I'm going to right click, arrange, send to back. So now we've created this kind of effect as if something's been thrown at the wall and it's splattered and thrown down. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to take some of these apple peels and I might drag them down a little bit, resize them so they're in a bit more clearer proportion. Gonna imagine that it's been thrown at the wall, so all these slices have now dispersed. Like so. Might even throw another one up here. And it's good to resize different elements in your design because not only does it look interesting, it actually adds a lot to the design itself. It shows a real clear sense of pattern. Great. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to, again, right-click my type, press Create Outlines, and I'm going to change the color of my text to just be black. And I'm going to get rid of that outline because I don't particularly like the look of it. Excellent. I'm going to drag Zest over the top, and I might resize it to make it quite large. On second thought, I'm going to change that and make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to place that center. So by using a black outline and black typeface, I've made that the emphasis. The hierarchy is this is what we see first, and then we see the splatter going down the page. So it's created a real sense of hierarchy. We see our text, we then might see these pieces of apple, and then we really want the splatter to be the last thing people notice, so I might change the color to be a bit more muted. I'm going to change it to a lighter, more pastel yellow. And I think that creates a much clearer sense of hierarchy. I'm going to select all that, minus the border, and resize it so it takes up majority of the space. So creating a real clear sense of hierarchy in that design. 1, 2, and 3. Our next design principle is scale. So that's showing different size elements in contrast or relation to each other. So we're going to adjust the scale of our text. So I'm going to right click, press Create Outlines. I'm going to get rid of the outline for now. And I'm going to adjust the scale like so. And then I'm going to repeat my text, make it a little bit larger. I'm going to repeat my text one more time, make that a little bit larger, and then once more for good measure and make that a little bit larger. This not only shows a sense of scale as the text is increasing in size, it also shows a real clear sense of hierarchy. So that's another way you can potentially go about creating your hierarchy. I'm going to position them like so. I'm going to select all of my type just for now. And because I'm working in Illustrator, I can drag them off the page so they're no longer on my workspace. And I have to think about how I'm going to display this splatter. So I want to show a real clear sense of scale, the relation between two different sizes. And because I'm scaling up my text really clearly, I want to create a consistent looking splatter. So I'm going to select all of these, minus the border. I'm going to rotate my splatter a little bit and increase it in size. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to change the overall kind of shape using my direct selection tool. So the cool thing about this tool, the white arrow, is if I double click an anchor point, I can actually change what the shape is. I can readjust it. So I might do that to a few different features. To make my splatter a little bit thinner, I really want to draw attention to my type. So I'm going to use this to drag in certain anchor points, really pull it inwards. So you can see that I'm readjusting the shape. Yeah, I think that definitely works. What I might then do is I might select my apple slices and I might rearrange them a little bit, just so they're seen more clearly when I place the text over the top. I might even change the splatter color to be maybe like a light green. Yeah, that looks kind of cool, kind of interesting. Then I'll grab my text and I can place that back over the top. I might resize it so it kind of fits on that splatter very neatly. And I can always think about what color contrasts well with green. And for me, that is definitely red. And we've shown that already with the apple slices, so it's good to show a bit of consistency. What you could then do to really enhance it is, let's say I'll select the first zest. I might make that quite a bit lighter. And then the second one, I'll make it kind of in between. The third one can be that color. And then our final logo can be in a darkest red. So we can see a real clear sense of scale in the title, but also in the fact that it's creating a real cool sense of hierarchy from the top down using different colors. I might even change that top one a little bit so it's even a bit lighter, a bit more pink, so it stands out against that back apple peel, which I might move as well. Yeah, looking pretty interesting. And again, you can always play around and pull things out and add things later on. The idea is that you're experimenting with the principle and building some interesting and diverse designs. Our second last design principle is proportion. So that is the proportion between two or more elements. So we want to change certain things. What I might do is I'm going to keep zest and I'm going to get rid of this splatter for this one. I'm going to delete most of my apple slices, delete that one and then delete this one. I'm going to take one of them, rotate it, resize it like so. And what I want to do is I want to create a really interesting concentric design that shows proportion really clearly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one apple slice about this size. I'm going to copy it like so, and I'm going to slightly rotate it, and I'm going to resize it very slightly. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to rotate it like so, and resize it slightly, thinking about where I'm positioning it. I'm going to do it again, resize it, might even rotate this a little bit more, excellent, and I'm going to copy that, rotate it, resize it one more time, and place it like so. I think that this yellow part of the apple core is quite light, so what I might do, just for the sake of this design, I might change my background color of my square to not be black. I want to try something else out. I might use a nice kind of blue. That's fantastic. So I'm going to select these 5 apple slices like so. I'm going to make them quite large. And you can see that they're decreasing in relation to each other. The proportion is changing. So proportion and scale can be quite similar, but proportion is the size between particular elements on the page, not the same one all the time. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to take my zest. I'm going to make it something quite bright. I'm thinking this golden yellow could work. Not too bad. I might think about adjusting that later on. I might even add a stroke to it to make it a little bit heavier. That looks looking pretty interesting. Could always rearrange my zest to be a lot smaller actually. I'm gonna right click it, turn it into a shape, and then I'm going to resize it so it's about that size in relation to the imagery. And for once, this has actually changed the hierarchy of my design so that the imagery is the thing that we pay attention to the most, not the actual logo. So we can see how I've used those apple slices to create a brand new design, and I've changed the proportion of these apple slices to be a lot bigger, going down to a lot smaller. For the final design principle is pattern, which is already kind of done in my original one, but I want to explore that a bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my zest over here. I'm going to delete this background. I'm going to change it to something a bit more engaging. I might go with a purple this time. And I'm going to select these apple slices. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those to create a pattern. So now I've got them all selected. I can press Control and Alt, and I can multiply them across my page like so. And there are two kinds of patterns. There is alternation, where everything's a little bit more random and hard to predict, and then there's repetition, where there's a clear sense of order. I want to create a design that doesn't have that much of a sense of order. It's more that like there's just random slices flying through the air. And because of that, I think it can make a really interesting effect. Obviously, order can work really nicely for designs, especially for patterns. You know, we see patterns every day, we interact with them. They're on our clothes. They're on the seats we sit on when we're on the train. They're absolutely everywhere, but it's good to think about how we can use pattern to actually enhance our design, not only create one version of it like we are right now. So we can see we've got a clear sense of pattern in this background. I could then place my text over the top. I might choose a color that's going to contrast well against the purple, and I might choose a light green, like so. I think I'm going to get rid of the stroke just to make it a little bit thinner, easier to see. Quite like that. I'm going to create outlines to turn my text into a shape, and what I might try and experiment with, if I go to arrange, center back, it's now behind the purple. If I then bring it forward a few times, hang on, arrange, bring to front. What I could then do is I could resize this like so, make it actually quite small, almost as small as the apple slices, because what you could then do is we could resize our text to then actually be part of the pattern. And we could rotate it and shift it all around and make a really interesting looking design with the combination of text and imagery, which is quite hard to do at times. And it may not be our final logo design, it might be hard to replicate, but it doesn't mean we can't try and experiment and try out different looking designs. You can always resize certain elements, create an interesting sense of proportion and scale. Cool, so we've got an interesting pattern forming there. And you can see that by using one design, I was able to create 8 different looking designs that are each pretty engaging and each show off that design principle pretty clearly. Now, they're not the final designs. I can always go back and refine them, and I encourage you to do so as well. When it comes to your annotation, the idea is that you guys are going to write about how you've emphasized that particular design principle in your design. So as this one, as an example, this one here is representing figure ground. So I've created a sense of figure ground by using a dark black background to emphasize the central figure of the bright beetroot. By creating the sense of contrast between dark and light, I've created a central focal point. So really clearly, that annotation has said how the design principle has been created and what has it done to enhance the design. So it's a really, really clear way of what you have to do in regards to that annotation, and you can type those annotations, but you do have to do them for each and every design. So I encourage that you use this example. I hope this video has been helpful, guys. If you have questions, obviously email them through, and good luck.